Hey folks, Malforian here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're covering Devlog 3, the artistic vision for Star Trek Infinite. So as the name gives away, this is going to go over basically the artistic vision for the game, how they're going to make it look like Star Trek, and how they're showing the different factions, the four main factions in the game itself. So I'm not going to keep you too long today. It isn't that long of a dev diary. It has got some sneaky gameplay spoilers in there, so we will take a look at those. But as always, if you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button. If you subscribe, I'm covering Star Trek Infinite up to launch, and then we'll be playing some campaigns on the channel. And then I also play other strategy games, cover dev diaries, news, all that good stuff. So if that's your kind of thing, hit subscribe. But we're just going to get straight into it today. And here we go, the artistic vision. To grasp the intricacies of our artistic decisions, it is essential to recognize that the game offers four distinct gameplay perspectives. Obviously, the four main factions: Federation, Klingon, Romulan, and Cardassian. Crafting a tailored user experience for each of these major powers stood as a paramount factor in shaping the development of each asset. This challenge presented an incredible opportunity, which it does. I mean, in Stellaris, there's obviously a lot of different graphics, a lot of stuff like that from these races, but all the races, obviously outside of human, are made up. You know, they are just made up races. You've got to kind of think of different ways to show them. But obviously with Star Trek, you've got all that lore. You've got all those kind of aesthetics and things like that that are in the TV shows and the movies and even other video games. And you can bring them in, and I think it helps them kind of like focus the difference between them. And then as you can see, these are going to be the title menus. I wonder if these are different every time you load in. I guess maybe if you played a Federation game last, it might load into the Federation screen. And as you can see, these look fantastic. Obviously a starbase here and a Galaxy class ship coming in. Amazing. As always, anything Paradox just looks fantastic. I think even the games they're not making themselves, I guess they help them with their art direction or something, because this, Millennia, EU4, Imperator Rome, Victoria 3, they all have that Paradox art style that I think if you just put it up there in front of somebody who's played any Paradox game and didn't say it was Paradox, you could tell it was a Paradox art. So, as always, as we look through any of this, the art is going to be amazing. And here we go, yeah, the Federation one, and then they've got the Klingon loading one, which they kind of spoiled a little bit last week, which looks fantastic. The Romulans, I mean, look at this, that's intimidating. The Romulans coming for you. The three different ships here, the name escapes me. Somebody can put it in the comments down below. I was going to say Birds of Prey, but that's the Klingon one. And looking fantastic. And this is their starbase. They are going to show that off later on. And then obviously the iconic Cardassian starbase. Not iconic for being Cardassian, weirdly enough iconic for it being DS9, let's be honest. I don't think we ever saw another one that wasn't DS9. No, we did, didn't we? There was an episode of DS9 where it was like DS6 or something, where they went in and it was all abandoned and stuff. Just looks amazing. It's obviously got Cardassian ships around it. The artistic vision of Star Trek Infinite focuses on 5 core pillars that make up the visual proposal of the game. So although it's different factions, it's kind of standardized in how it looks. The first of these pillars is consistency. We wanted the Star Trek IP to be presented in a respectful, consistent, and synergistic way. Some would argue that some of the latest Star Trek hasn't done that, apart from Strange New Worlds, which is amazing. To better help us visualize the wondrous universe of grand strategy games, these 3 key elements will help us analyze the treatment to give to each of these artistic elements integrated into the game. Each of these assets must fulfill 3 purposes without exception. So I think that just makes sense. Like I was saying, they want it to look like Star Trek, they want it to be respectful to the IP, but then they also want it to look, you know, the same in a way. Like you can look at any of these and you know it's from the same game, even though it's very different. They've got the capital art here. This is obviously San Francisco. This is the capital of the Klingons, Kronos, probably the Cardassian capital here. And then obviously this is Romulus or Remus, Romulus, I believe. Is this the council building that gets destroyed in Nemesis? Well, everyone gets killed in there in Nemesis. I think it is. It is very distinct, but they all look like they come from the same game, and they all look very Star Trek, which is great. This brings us to the second pillar, Classic Trek. The goal is to fulfill Trekkie expectations so they are comfortable with and can identify with the use of classic IP vision in this game. Establishing this rule greatly simplified our decision-making when choosing the characters, the places they occupy in the canon, both for actors and the audience, models of ships, and above all, faithfully representing the source material as the franchise was built on over many decades. They're obviously going to pay respect to, as you can see in this kind of screenshot here, this is, you know, Picard, LaForge, Data, and it looks like a scene from Star Trek The Next Generation. And I think a lot of events, especially on the Federation side, are basically going to have this kind of art where it almost looks like it's from the TV show, but it almost could be. If you were quickly glancing at it, you could be mistaken for thinking it was from the show itself. But yeah, it's definitely art, obviously. And just saying, like, we want it to look like it is an episode almost. These events, the ones they're going to do that aren't just kind of recreations of events from the show, they want it to look like, oh, you're doing this event, this could have been an episode of Star Trek. So fantastic to see them doing that. In order to apply all of this correctly, another pillar, stylization, is defined. In the spaceship stylization for this type of strategy game, legibility is always prioritized and will respect the IP boundaries. One of the biggest challenges in styling proposal came from the 3D models of ships and structures. Although they were aware that ship designs had to be adapted to be able to use them in the game engine, the methodology that was used when reducing information was to reverse engineer the key elements of each design, extract them, and preserve their essence in the redesign. So obviously, they have to keep things relatively simple. You know, a starship has to look like a starship, a starbase has to look like a starbase, even if it's on these different factions. But as they show in this really cool art here, they've obviously, you know, you can see the elements that make this Klingon. You've got like the larger red landing bays. You've just got like Klingon-esque looking structures and things like that, which look fantastic. And then they've got this other breakdown here, which is amazing. Like all the different star bases, the different sensor relays or whatever these are. And then obviously the different kind of ships. This is quite small, but you know, we've got the different ships here, and then again, the same for the Klingons. And as you can see here, all four factions here have the same things. They have, what, 5 star bases, 3 of these little sensor things, I think. I think this is where you, like, capture a system, and it, you know, has a base there, but it's not a star base. This looks like what they are. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And then obviously the different kind of ships. So every faction has to have the same type of ship, but obviously they want them to look specific to each one, which is easier, I think, in some than others. In the Federation, there's obviously been so many different kinds of ships. They've kind of got one for each thing. Your shuttlecraft, you know, Voyager maybe for a little cruiser or something. You've got, say, Constellation class here maybe. Obviously the Galaxy class. And then the, whatever the Enterprise E is, I think this one at the end is, but I can't remember what class that was now off the top of my head. And then obviously for the Klingons, you've got Bird of Preys on the in the middle here, and then you've got the larger cruisers, and then the big battleships at the end. And the same, you know, across all of these, which I think some of them are kind of like more iconic, like the Klingon, the Federation. The Cardassians, they kind of all look the same in a way, but you can tell they are these different classes. And then obviously for the Romulans, you've got the classic Romulan ships, which are the bigger ones. Looks amazing. It looks amazing. I think they've done really well with making them stand out, yet be the same thing. You know, you can see if you're looking at one of these, which is what a tier 4 starbase, you can tell immediately it's the biggest starbase, but they all look very different to each other. For the design of the new models, we use the same criterion as above. A deep research and analysis was done on the structure of the original models in order to interpret and replicate the decision-making in the designs that made this franchise great. Regarding the multiple aspects of gameplay, each piece of art corresponds to a different perspective of the game, while some have been shared across all 4. This encompasses 3D models, event illustrations, loading screens, iconography, mini illustrations, portraits, VFX, and everything else, basically. So, yeah, this is the first one here, Assets Made. As you can see, the illustrations all down the left-hand side here. So many different icons and art that they obviously had to do to make this game stand out from other things. And look at this, you know, you've got a Borg here, you've got the loading screen that was shown last week, you've got this event art here. As we were saying before, these event illustrations, this just looks like an episode of the show. And then you've got some Klingon one here, you've obviously got something where you're traveling on the Enterprise, and then these smaller ones as well, which just look great. I mean, this just looks like Star Trek. And then mini illustrations, you've got some cool looking stuff down here as well. So I think you will agree, it does look like Star Trek, doesn't it? Which is obviously the intended thing, but I think they've done really well. The art team always knock it out of the park. And then this one's really cool, actually. This gives us a lot of information, this next screenshot. So obviously you can see Picard, Gowron, I think. I can't remember her name, who's head of the Romulans at one point. And then I'm guessing this is Gul Dukat at the end. And then obviously this is all the different kind of clothing they can wear. Now, one cool thing is this actually gives us a full list of all the species that are going to be in the game. So you've got the minor power portraits. I'm not going to read all of these, but you've got the Bajorans, the Bolians, the Talarian. You've got the Beta Z, Illyrian, and the Bolian in this list. Pretty cool for all the minor powers. That's a pretty good start. Crisis, the Borg. So that does confirm the Borg are the Crisis race, which makes a lot of sense. We could have got, I think, like the Dominion as well, maybe, coming in through a wormhole and causing up some trouble, but the Borg just makes so much sense to be the original Crisis. And then hopefully, as we've said before, if the game's successful, Hopefully we can play as them later on. That would be amazing. And then the support powers, which they did mention last week, the Elarians and the Ferengi. I do apologize if I've butchered any of these names. I think I've done quite well, but probably messed up one or two of them. It does show here, this is all the races that are going to be in the game itself. And then on the left-hand side, obviously the Cardassian, the Klingon, the Romulan. And then for the Federation, it's not just humans, is it? They've got Andorians, Vulcans, Tellarites as well. So that's pretty cool. 3,600 human portrait combinations. Crazy. This looks really cool. I love it. I love it. This looks really, really fantastic. Taking into account that style makes functionality, we find the next pillar, gameplay first. User experience posed a great challenge to us since we had to define an artistic proposal for the user interface. They are saying they kind of wanted to make it look a little like TNG, basically, from that. And then here's where there's a little bit of a gameplay, not like spoiler, but there's some more information here that I don't think has been seen before. I'll try my best to zoom in. It is one image, so it's kind of hard to zoom into it all. So these are like the decision trees that each of the races are going to have. This is obviously the Federation mission tree, where no one has gone before is the one that you have to choose. And then this is where you can split out. So you've got Understand the Unknown, First Contact, and then it splits off further down. I think we have seen down this tree before. I think it was in last week's video or the one before. It's got like Empower Section 31 or go down the peaceful route, and then build the Enterprise. So you are going to have Enterprise actually in the game itself, and you can make it better basically by finishing these missions, which is pretty cool. And then you've got over here the Klingons. We are Klingons, obviously. And then it looks like the two different ways. You know, the Empire grows, claim supremacy. I think this is going down the conquering side of things. Or in our blood, prepare for Sto-vo-kor. That's where people die, I think. Is Sto-vo-kor like the heaven, I guess, of the Klingons? Again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong there. It's been a while since I've watched those Worf-esque episodes, if I'm honest, so it'd be interesting to see where this splits off afterwards, but these are all giving you different bonuses. We've got down here into the Romulans, Shadow Politics, and then on the right-hand side, it looks like empowering the Tal Shiar Event Horizons. Be interesting to see what that is. And then on the left-hand side here, we've got Flickering Sun, so it looks like on this side, you are going to maybe be able to go down the path of where the Romulan sun gets destroyed, which is a Picard spoiler, I suppose. I think it's been covered in other shows, but I know in Picard it's a bit about that. And yeah, it looks like Flickering Sun. It looks like that's the star exploding. End of an era, escaping out of there. Or Talar. Someone can let me know what that means. I've not actually watched Picard, so I don't know if that's covered in there. But anyway, this is a little bit of what their tree looks like. And then the last one we've got over here is the Cardassians. And then Our Shared Labor, Clean Slate, Ideological Mission, Obsidian Order, Reforms. It looks like maybe this left-hand side is going down the Obsidian Order style gameplay. Maybe this right-hand side is a little bit more peaceful. It's got Reforming, Clean Slate. Maybe that's where they're, you know, a little bit nicer, a bit less Obsidian Order craziness. And then Education is Power, Insidious, Ruthless Expansion, or Bajor Thrives. So again, maybe in here you can just go conquering everything. Maybe if you choose this one, the tree ends, and it's all about making nice with Bajor, or maybe it's just a bit of a bonus. Maybe if you take Bajor or something, if you don't start with it, you can, you know, do something with that. Some kind of bonus regarding Bajor. Who knows? We'll find out, obviously, when the game comes out, or if they go into a little bit more detail about how these work in the future. The influence for the original interface used in TNG, combined with some of the most current graphical resources of the franchise, made it possible to achieve a clean and flat style topped with the gloss resources that made a high-end interface emphasizing functionality, both for the iconology and the mini illustrations. Functionally is always prioritized. The same applies for the VFX and animations. So yeah, actually, do these have different... Oh, they did actually. I didn't notice that. The actual, like, around the art, this has got like the Federation wreath. This one has got like Klingon weapons kind of around the outside. This has got like a very Romulan-looking icon around the outside. And this one, again, that kind of Cardassian look around it. So yeah, they are actually trying to make these look a little bit different as much as they can, whilst making it obvious that it's the same system for all four factions. Making it just look a little bit different for each one. I like that. That's pretty cool. In terms of diversity, this is one of the most crucial aspects to consider when creating content, as the franchise has prioritized it since its inception. To achieve this, we collaborated closely with Paramount to carefully curate and define both the event content and the character portraits. Just saying, you know, they just want a wide range of people and things like that in the game, which again is what Star Trek is pretty famous for doing. So it's good that they're keeping that up. And then obviously here you've got the main-ish characters from TNG. You've got Worf, Riker, Picard, Data, and Troy. None of the other ones, actually, come to think of it, Are they the 5 that are in this tree? No, Crusher's in here as well. LaForge, Troy. Okay, so Crusher is in it as well. I wondered whether they were just always focusing on those 5, but no, the other ones are in as well. But again, just some nice art. Looks fantastic. And finally, we had the last pillar, faithfully representative. The informative and functional content of this kind of strategy game will be enhanced by the Star Trek IP and its components. The visual content of the original TNG series will be used as faithfully as possible in each artistic decision. End log. So there we go, that's this week's Dev Diary, and yeah, no spoilers as to what next week's is, but I guess we'll find out obviously next week, and I'll be covering it as always. But yeah, let me know what you think. I think this is looking really cool. I like how they have taken Stellaris and actually, you know, put that additional code on it to make it look like Star Trek, and been very faithful to the next generation, as they said last week. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this week. As always, hit like if you've enjoyed it. If you're new here, I cover historical strategy games mostly, but obviously, we've spun off a little bit to cover Star Trek and some other stuff recently. And I also do live streams now and then. I'll probably do one when the game launches, do a little bit of a launch live stream, and we'll get a bit of gameplay. You'll have to let me know in the comments who you want me to play as. We might start boring and start as the Federation. I'll decide on the day, or however you guys decide. I might do a little vote on the channel and see which one people want me to play as. We'll see close to the time. It's not that far off, actually, is it? It's like 3 weeks away, so we won't be waiting too long. But anyway, on that note, we'll leave it there for today. I'll see you in the next one.